Not at this point. No, we're not there yet.
I want to drive home the jobs thing on this Entrepreneur article. I'll hit it fast before we get to the pop.
Yeah. Let's do it. Let's do it.
All right. This, according to Entrepreneur, the data here I think is really interesting, but I'm just going to hit you with a highlight reel. The flexible side hustle is helping millions earn extra cash, okay, and might be, quote, more attractive, end quote, than an office job. I don't really care about it. I'm not going to get into it. I'm not going to pitch you on some bullshit, okay? I'm so tired of e-com nonsensical shit. But here's a quote I want to read to you. 55% of Gen Zers and millennials have a side hustle.
I love that.
55%.
Good for them.
Okay? And 80% of them say they depend on the additional cash given the current economy. A recent survey from online lending marketplace LendingTree found. So 55% of Gen Zers have a second job, and 80% of those people are absolutely relying on it just to make ends meet. This is why the jobs data is all sorts of wrong.
This is why the jobs data is all sorts of wrong. This is why the GDP figure is all sorts of wrong. And like
GDP, the government is spending so much money right now propping up GDP.
Exactly. And usually, like during wartime, or if we're giving aid to support, some of our allies, that helps boost the GDP figures. And you got to remember, why does this matter? Okay, maybe you think we're getting too granular, or we're geeking out on some of these numbers. This is the data that the Fed is relying on, okay, to say, hey, yeah, we can keep rates right here. There's no problem. Look, jobs are great. GDP
is strong.
GDP is great. Unemployment is at an all-time low. Like, I think on the last episode, we talked about how the Fed came out and said household balance sheets are really strong. Yeah,
and
bro.
Brian Moynihan came out. I almost kicked the screen.
Yeah, okay, balance sheets. Okay, balance sheet doesn't mean shit, right? It's not liquid, right? It's people's houses. So you want people to have to sell their houses to eventually make ends meet? Like, maybe that is the goal for them, right? That's the only way.
But that's unrealized balance sheet assets. That means nothing to you until you sell your home. Your home being worth $5 million means jack shit to you until you sell it.
Yeah, and maybe, but that's my thing, right? The only way to bring these home prices down is there needs to be more sellers than there are buyers.
But in order for that to happen, you need to have more defaults and more financial issues in the marketplace.
Exactly. So,
which means more stress on banks that they can't take as it is now.
Right. Exactly. And what
credit quality is the only thing holding the banking system up.
Right. And you're right. And kudos to us. Right. I know we get a bad rep, but after the 2008 great financial crisis, right? The Dodd-Frank Act was passed, and look, now we're making sure that people can actually afford the loans that they're getting.
Yeah, but here's the problem with that, okay? Yeah, just like the home builders got it right this time. The home builders did not oversupply the market, so it kept values up and kept their inventory and their sales going. So the home builders got it right, and they're trading at great numbers right now. Mm-hmm. The banks got it right this time, except for interest rate risk, because the Fed took the unprecedented turn.
Yeah, man.
And now you got every bank in the country, regardless of size, has assets on their balance sheet, loans that aren't as valuable today as they once were in a lower interest rate environment, because you can get higher interest rates for similarly situated loans right now. So that's a lower than market rate. It has interest rate risk built into it. Yet these banks don't have to sell anything. They don't have any economic losses because they're not taking credit losses. If this scenario happens and banks take credit losses in the future on some assets, like homes, like credit cards,
right?
And you're a consumer bank, Brian Moynihan, bad idea.
Right.
Whatever, what do I know?
Right.
Okay, then guess what? Now you've taken away the only thing propping up the banking sector, and you wind up in a situation where you got to ask yourself, do we want banks failing?
That's the other thing. That's the thing that I think a lot of people get confused by is, let's just say a situation happens where, God forbid, banks go down, and some banks are too big to let fail again. Okay? And they need to get bailed out. I easily can see this happen, right? If the Fed waits too long to act, okay? The banks operate based on what the Fed tells them they're going to do. If they drastically change their plan and their plan of attack, and banks haven't accounted for their plan, right? You can't drastically change it and expect them to, plan for the future that only giving them, 6 months to a year?
You know what would be a good indicator of this?
What?
New York Community Bank reports its earnings this Friday. So by the time this next show comes out, it'll obviously be the Friday before the Tuesday that the show comes out. But I think that'll be a good indicator of how the market will respond. I think this Friday will be a very pivotal day.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't know that it's going to be anything good or bad per se, but I think we'll get a better feel